Okay, good morning. Welcome back to Gutted, Good Grief. We're just so honored to be here with the incredible Space Frog, aka Donnie Myers, and Sydney Rose, my incredible podcast host.
Good morning. So excited to be here with Donnie today.
Gutted. Good grief.
Space Frog.
Such an honor. Uh, Space Frog embodies what it means to walk others through life's most tender thresholds, which is why we welcome them here today, along with many other reasons. Space Frog is a longtime death walker, certified not only through life experiences, some of which I'm hopeful he will share with us today, but also through an incredible program based in Maui called Doorway into Light, whose work centers on presence, integrity, and a deep reverence for end of life care. Space Frog was recently featured in Lucid News. An article will drop below the podcast link so that you can read through that, where he reflected on his experience at a psychedelic end of life retreat, describing it as a gathering of godlings and sharing how it invited him into a lived expression of what he calls the divine masculine: grounded, ethical, boundary, and safe. And absolutely speaks to my experience with him. But beyond credentials and articles, my connection to Space Frog is deeply personal. My uncle once heard him speak at a conference, and without knowing much about him beyond the truth of what he shared, he said, "My niece needs to talk to you." And Space Frog didn't hesitate. Said, "Okay." And in the first few moments of that call, I found myself in tears. It just, Johnny got on the phone and I was a puddle, met by a depth of alignment, kindness, and a sense of being truly held and understood. It was one of those encounters where you recognize instantly that someone carries the kind of presence that this work asks of us. And I'm profoundly grateful. His approach shapes how he listens, how he holds space, and how he walks alongside others, both at the end of life and throughout life in general. So we are truly honored to have him with us today on Got a Good Grief. Welcome, Donnie.
Space Frog.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here. It's truly an honor to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So walk us through a little bit. Your journey as a death walker is an interesting one because in some ways it just started and in some ways it's been happening for 30 plus years. Can you tell us a little bit about what brought you into that journey and what's unfolding for you?
Absolutely. I'm going to go back to the early 80s, and I had made a profound choice in 1979. I found out that my adopted father, I was 16 years old, had been sleeping with my little sister since the age of 9. And I spent about 4 hours that night until about 3 a.m. with a loaded 357 in the basement because I was going to end his life. And that's a lot for a 16-year-old boy to deal with. I decided instead of doing that, because I knew that I couldn't handle that on my soul, the death of another human was not the path I wanted to take. So I left the gun, and I left and never came back. I ended up on the streets of Seattle, ultimately, and was saved and put into treatment and started a path of recovery on April 14th of 1980 as a 16-year-old boy. I subsequently, and I never went to high school, I was on my own. I didn't have a safety net as a human, and I wasn't safe. But I had my heart intact because of the choice I had made. What I've learned in the last 45 years since the beginning of that story is that when you can lean into your shadow, as Carl Jung talks about, when you can lean into your nightmare fully and accept all, bless all, love all, it becomes your greatest strength.
It becomes your greatest strength.
Yeah.
Donnie, when we first met, I felt really strongly how deeply you presented your heart on your sleeve. I could see in your eyes you were fully present with us. And that in itself was so grounding that I would love to hear more about how you embrace both the dark and the light in your life for creating the path you designed.
I will address the end of your question first. I didn't design any of this.
No rules.
Well, not only no rules, I believe the divine itself is truly the mystery.
Mm,
That I don't need to know what's next ever. That if I'm present, as my teacher Ram Dass has always said, be here now. Just be here now. It has to be that simple and that accessible, whether you're a 5-year-old child living in absolute innocence, joy, and wonder, or an 89-year-old terminally ill person leaning into their last breath.
Yeah, I
It's
love
the
that.
same. It's the same. So I have never planned anything that's worked out my way. I remember when I went to theology divinity school, we used to have a joke, which was, if you want to make God laugh, tell her your plans.
It's so true.
It's so funny because, as you both know, our brain is wired to try and control and understand, and it doesn't work.
Oh, yeah, it is.
And that's the beginning of all of our suffering right there.
Donnie, you are right on point, and I love that you told us about the mug you're drinking from today.
Yeah.
With everything that we see and feel in life comes from the past, pulls from the future, but is in the present. I
Yes.
love that you have this mug you're drinking from that throws you into the future, that brings the power of the past, but grounds you in the present as you feel that liquid move through your body and you share these thoughts with us.
Yeah, amen. I feel that way too, and that it was such a gift from such a special friend that is breaking huge ground right now. I was telling you before we started the recording that my beloved sister, Sherry Neal, will become the first Lutheran minister in the history of the church as an acknowledged LGBTQ wearing a collar. And my goodness, how far we've come to include all of us,
Yeah.
right? Me,
Well, and
we, and she embodies it more than anybody I know, and she is a fierce warrior of the Most High, just like the two of you godlings are.
I have 8 million thoughts in my head right now, as always. I want to honor your sister in that because Sherry, a huge part of why I think so many people leave, well, I guess I can only speak for myself, but a huge part of why I felt Christianity was so not on my path was the resistance to welcoming all of the children of the earth. It's so
Amen.
confusing to me that only
Amen.
certain people are allowed in this faith tradition, and more specifically, like the LGBTQIA plus community not being welcomed is like, I don't understand. It just doesn't make any sense. And it led to my deconstruction of Christianity ultimately in many ways, but also like so many people that are still so firmly rooted in that and need that space and deserve that space and that sanctity that are welcomed into traditional churches, she's carrying a huge weight. So I also want to honor her strength
Mm.
and her resilience and her willingness to do that. That's not a small feat. So
No, it's not, and I'm so proud of her and her
yeah.
journey. I've known her for a good 15, 20 years now, and we've worked intimately together in supporting each other all these years on our own paths and mirroring each other, which is the dance of divine masculine, divine feminine that we all do. And what does that look like, right? What is that container? And that's really what, I ask myself of myself when I try and show up in every moment.
So you do that remarkably well. And I would love to ask you to share that visual that always comes to my mind about the samurai holding his shadow self. It's something that absolutely is, I hold on to it and it brings me back routinely to what am I hiding? What's in my body? What deserves to be held? And it has absolutely shifted the way that I approach shadow. So take it away, if you will.
My goodness. So you're coming up on the anniversary of that moment for me. There are psychedelic shaman on my island that do intense heavy lifting with women that have been horribly abused. And I was invited to a weekend ceremony to anchor it as divine masculine by the facilitators. I was really nervous to do it because I felt like because of my abuse and my shadow that I would ignite theirs, especially in the format of 48 hours of intense psychedelic therapy together
Right.
in a sacred container, that it would spill over onto them somehow because I've always uh, had that sensitivity. I grew up, my room was right next to my sister's room my whole life. So I know what predatorial behavior is. And I recognize it not just in her, but in me and the abuses that we took. By the way, the cliff note is that that man that had adopted us ended up in prison for the rest of his life. And that's important to know that there can be justice and there's a right way to handle predatorial behavior.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your voice, Space Frog. I believe that every time we take a stand for somebody that is not violent in the pattern that they put upon us, but is full of grace and full of love, that we bring that into the world where our children live. So thank you for creating a better
Amen.
world for my
Amen.
children.
Yeah, and that's, I have made the transition from me to we, and we can talk about that or not, but I want to get back to your question about the anchoring of the sword. So I go into this retreat, and as it happens, it's the weekend of my 60th birthday.
Oh.
And that's
Oh,
why I knew to go into this retreat. I kept saying that I want to become, as an old man, kind, gentle, and wise, but with the heart of a 5-year-old child, with the innocence, joy of a 5-year-old. That's what I intend to be in the third act of my play as a human. I'm in my third trimester now, and in a couple weeks, I'll be turning 63. And as you both know, in the world of Judeo-Christian mythology,
it's
the three that we are right now are not only the three wise men, three wise women, but we are also the Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So the three is the holy word on all of this, and we're approaching that now. I go into the yurt, this container with the most divine women and myself for 48 hours. And I held myself in the highest integrity at that point I had ever been in vibrationally with women. And I watched and I participated fully. The facilitators were with me the whole time, grounding in that. They needed that sword there.
yeah.
What I didn't know is we had an integration chat about 4 days later. We all got on Zoom. They came from all over the country, these women, to do this 2-day ceremony. And we're doing the integration. And I'm feeling like Divine Mother has blessed me, kissed me. It's the most perfect. I am clean, okay? There's no distortion with me and her now. I can do the divine dance with her fully. I proved it over this weekend. And as women are sharing their experience over the weekend, they started beating the bejesus out of me. I became a piñata. I became, yeah, they started destroying the baby in the bathwater because I evoked everything I was afraid I would evoke in them. And what's interesting about it is I have always hidden my dark side from women so that they're not uncomfortable around me.
Mhm.
That's been what I thought was a superpower up till then. And it was. It actually was. It got me to the earth. By hiding it, I didn't disrespect or make them uncomfortable that there is a love assassin, a man that is 50% assassin and 50% mystic. Okay. Men carry that energy 50-50. I didn't know that yet until that ceremony and they're blasting me and they were right to blast me. What they saw was not the mystic. They saw a man like every other man they've ever seen that they've never been safe around. He was hiding something.
Mhm.
Isn't that ironic? By hiding my shadow from them, it made them nervous because they've experienced every man they've ever been around is hiding shit from them in some way in their own dance. So it all came tumbling down, very similar to the energetic that's happening globally right now with the fall of man. I call this time the fall of man, and especially my archetype, which is an old white man of privilege. Even though I grew up on the streets and I have a horrible nightmare beginning first chapter of my story, I ended up rising as a master of the universe simply because I'm an old white guy, that's middle-aged mediocre with the confidence of a lion. And in our culture and society, that worked. It worked beautifully for me and every pompous man that's lost that has the microphone right now, right?
Space Frog, we see you.
I,
Mhm.
I know you do. So I went away from that absolutely feeling destroyed because I knew I was pure in my heart, but I had to listen to those women because they were right. And so I sat down for the next week with my darkest self, the 50% of me that's an assassin. Okay. And I talked to him and I said,
Mhm.
what are we going to do? I said, I'll make you a deal. I want to be 51% of this container and you can be 49% of this container so that I have control over you. Do you know what he said to me? Yes. Yes. He said, no, it doesn't work that way. You're 50-50. And what that did, as soon as he said that, I knew he was right. And then I realized that I, on my own as a man, am incapable of taming my shadow. That I need both Divine Mother to guide me and ground me, and Divine Father to ground me and guide me. I need them both at all times because I need a power greater than myself in order to be here with you now. What a gift that was.
What a
And
gift.
from there, the acceleration of my energetic awakening, which had always been with me, came into focus clearly of how to conduct myself in the third act of the play.
And then the visual that you pictured when holding your shadow self, tell us about that. It's so beautiful. The sword.
The sword Excalibur, right? King Arthur, all of the lore of white knights and goodness came into play, and I realized the symbol of the assassin is to take that sword and wear it directly under your heart, as big as possible, like the old knights of old, because I no longer am afraid of my shadow. I'm not in control of my shadow. I sit with my shadow openly so that you know exactly who I am. And I created a word to describe this power, which is Lavasan. And it's two words, love, assassin, Lavasan.
Lavasan.
And I embody Lavasan at all times. That to me is the Space Frog Credo 101.
Mhm.
As a man, this is how I conduct myself and how I see only for me, not for anybody else, but for me, what divine masculine looks like and creates like. in the present moment right now.
I love that so much. I have such gratitude for the willingness for you to, throughout that journey, show up so fully vulnerable and hold space for women. And then to many people, when they would show up so lovingly and like, I prepared for this, I'm here for you, to then receive such a flood of negative feedback could get very defensive. And it's painful. It physically hurts, right? How to teach from it and to grow. And for me, I feel like that openness is something that I see from you. I feel so grateful to see that from you. You know what you're going to get. Well, this is Penelope, my dog. And I have to tell you the sweetest thing, and it's for some other people's stories, but I have a very extensive background of unsafe touch in our family. And I thought it was so interesting that as you started talking about that, she placed herself right in front of my so I'm very grateful for her.
Yeah, me too. Me too. We all have our spirit totems, and they're alive, or they're in our pockets as talisman, or they're the sound of a bird or the dappling of light on a flower, right? Every moment can be that sacred moment of God and union and mysticism. All mysticism is truly just union with the divine, and we all have it at all times. We just have to get out of the way
Yeah,
and, you know,
very that.
to be in it.
But and I love that about you. You're so good at just embracing whatever it is. You're so open, truly embody here and now and love and holding space. And I'm endlessly grateful for the way that
Thank you.
by leading that, you open space for others to share in that experience.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, that's what we all do. I've come across recently a beautiful Thich Nhat Hanh, who is one of my great teachers, saying that he said right before he died, and I didn't know this, and I love this. I've been sharing it with everybody. So see how this drops for the two of you right now. He said, the next Buddha is the Sangha.
Say more about that. The next Buddha is the Sangha.
So for thousands of years, we have written history, verbal history, and experience that got us here around mystics. Jesus, Buddha, Mohammed, you can go on up into, Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Thomas Merton, Thich Nhat Hanh. Okay, we have mystics. We've always had mystics. But what Thich Nhat saw and what I see constantly is that there is no one anymore. This
Mm,
person that's gonna walk the earth. Everybody's waiting for the rapture, in a sense, to validate their certain belief, okay?
right.
That all of us as a collective, again, I'll go back to Carl Jung with his brilliance, what he called race consciousness. We all share one mind,
Hmm.
and that's what namaste embodies also, and the oldest prayer in the Gayatri embodies also. So when you look at all of it as a whole, it's the simple equation that I've been playing with since I put my sword up front, which is me to we.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And the we is the Sangha. So it's every single person together. It's the true concept of the Bodhisattva. I am going to hold the door open for every living being, not just the ones that I love, but every turd in the punch bowl, every pedophile, every abuser, every predator, man, woman, child, doesn't matter. We're all godlings. We just get lost.
We do get lost. Yeah. I love
And
that.
how do I go to the tenets of Jesus Christ? Of all, forgive all.
Hmm.
If I want to be free, that's it, right? Keep going.
No, you're right.
Sorry.
I think it is such a strong reality to the so we are all connected. Every single one of us is connected, and we forget that so often. And it's always mind-boggling because it is the path not just to forgiveness, but to true connection and true release. My mom used to say that people get really stuck in religion and faith and things like that. And she's like, the only rule is God is love. So whatever love means to you. So whatever name you want to, that's it, right? And I remember when I was little, the idea of hell was so scary to me. And she described it, and here's something. Is there a radio on?
My Dharma sister was singing in the background. Sorry. I asked her to sing along so that it would ground me and protect me so that I could be here with you
I
and
love
not
that.
stray at all.
Maybe she was celebrating this.
Of course she was.
When I was a little, I was terrified of hell. I grew up in a Christian faith, and so the idea of the top and the bottom and whatever else. And one of the things that my mom said that was strangely helpful for me was that hell is not a place exactly. Like it's not brimstone and fire. It's your mind. And hell would be you having to really relive every moment that you hurt somebody through profound empathy and then learn how to release it, forgive, and move forward. And so I love that because it's so true. Like I never want to hurt anybody. And so, and we are true. Like the only trap you ever have is really in your mind. But the idea of experiencing whatever pain you inflicted on somebody would be hell. But then to learn how to move through that and release
Yeah.
and forgive.
Well, we do experience it. We do experience it with our holding on to the suffering of not forgiving,
Yeah.
of ultimately having to open this up fully and lean into the pain
Yeah.
that we
Yeah.
caused ourselves and others. I mean, that's, I think, why we pick being here. That's the divinity of becoming fully human. Yeah, it's the essence. I'm so in love with your mother already. Her wisdom that she shared with you as a child, is stunning to me. It's everything that I know about organized religion also. Having the background I have in that, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
She's right. She's
Yeah.
totally right.
Yeah.
It seems appropriate to share a little sidebar right now. There was a famous
Thank you.
saint, there was a famous yogi for many decades in India named Satya Sai Baba.
Something to
You
say about.
you can look him up. He was called the man god of India.
Okay.
And everybody from the Dalai Lama on down would come to him for blessing and darshan. And he facilitated and oversaw the largest ashram in the world, where 40,000 people a day, literally at 4 a.m. every day, line up to go in and sit and be in his presence for 10 hours at a time. So I spent a couple months with him.
Well,
I got invited to his ashram by one of the devotees, and they flew me there. I was a newly sober man 20 some years ago with nothing. I had hit rock bottom, and they brought me there to be with him and to sit at his feet. And I was so honored and excited. And as I'm walking into the ashram itself, there are these gorgeous wrought iron gates. And on the wrought iron gate, it says, "One race, human, one religion, love." And I stopped my friend, the yogi that had lived there forever, and I said, "Holy dude,
did you say
I like this." No, I said, "This guy rocks." And he's like, "Oh yeah, Donnie, this guy rocks. This guy rocks." And I've used that ever since. That is the tenet. I think that right now we are creating the true regeneration of religious faith in the 21st century right now with that credo, you know? All beings, we're all included, and God is love.
that's it?
That's
God is
it.
love. God is love.
Yes.
God
And
is light.
yeah. And all the mystics have always told us that. We just got sideways as men because we are naturally predators. We're here to hunt and gather. We're here to serve and protect you. Okay. But as we start to go astray in that, we run from our shadow, which creates this harmonic resonance that creates more shadow, and we get lost in it. I always think there's only two books ever written in the history of our race: the Bible and Shakespeare. And every single story in both books in the mythology talks about the fall of man.
Origin stories from
Origin
across
stories.
the world speak about the fall of man.
Yeah.
And yeah, what role that creates for women to play, what role
Yeah.
that creates for Mother Nature to play,
Yeah.
what role that creates for divine masculinity to play. And
Yeah.
I think what you're saying as we started the session is there is no rules. We're not here to play to an objective reality where rules define our fear of hell or our fear of heaven, our fear for our children, our fear for our ancestors. I hear
Amen.
you saying we're here to live now in the present and to be
Amen.
fully alive and engaged in this life of play without rules except for love.
Amen. Well said. I mean, that's exactly what it is. I will share, see how this resonates for the two of you. When I have a new spiritual practice student, I do two things now before they come to their first session. The first thing I do is I have them read a book by a man named Michael Singer called The Untethered Soul. And it's a very, very simple book, and it's probably the most concise book I've ever read about prayer and meditation in my life. Period. It feeds. Nobody has ever been disappointed by this book, by the way. And I use it as a template, not we're going to preach out of it, but just to give us a common language for what I'm about to do with the two of you. So after they've read this book, I take my crystal ball when they sit across from me and I hand it to them, okay? So imagine you're holding this crystal ball with me right now, the two of you. And I want you to think about two things. The first one is, imagine being on a rock going through space at 68,000 miles an hour with 8 billion of your closest friends right now. And the first question I want to ask you is, are you in control? And the second question I'm going to ask you, do you actually really understand what's going on here? No. If
No
you
and no.
can if you can if you can successfully answer no to both, I will begin to work with you.
Has anybody ever said yes?
Yes. A lot of
Oh,
people. Oh yeah.
really?
Yeah. There are so many
Should've been
men.
more known.
There no, no, it's called being non-awake. Mostly the men
Mm. Because it's
that
scary. I mean, maybe they keep
yeah.
out what's going on. I wish I knew what was going on since nobody knows what's going
No.
on.
See, here's the difference. This is where the hierarchy begins now, okay? Part of the shift in the new religion that we're inventing on this podcast today, that we've already discussed, we've had it inverted upside down. It's been a top-down male teaching, okay? For 5,000 years, men have been hurting themselves, each other, and the whole planet. One. And two, women have never been safe here, ever. We've been quietly standing on your throat with our boot while we love you, metaphorically, okay? And control you and get everything we want so we can be kings and masters of the universe. What's happened in the last 3 years harmonically with the age of awakening, the age of Aquarius being birthed, and all of our conscious awakening together as a we, it's flipped. And you are the mystery. You contain the universe within you. Every woman that's ever been born innately knows this about themselves. All of creation on this three-dimensional plane that we're playing on at the moment affirms this, right? All creation comes through you as divine mother, divine goddess. This is what pisses most men off because we are second violin for the rest of our life. We're not the king of the universe. Not that we're not valued to serve and protect you. That's our role, but men have forgotten that. Men have forgotten that we are solely here to serve and protect Divine Mother. And when we do that, then we can truly be hailed as a partner and coexist in the dance safely in the container as divine masculine, divine feminine.
So there was a somersault that had to happen before we're here.
Well, sure,
Wow.
we've had 5,000 years of destruction.
Two thoughts, because what's coming through is when you're talking about the two books, Shakespeare and the Bible. It's so fascinating because for me, this speaks to what you're talking about now. The Bible has been such a tool of mass destruction in my mind, not because there's not lessons in love, but because it was written from the male perspective. It removed the female perspective. It wrote it as if a woman was less than. And I think that there's danger in saying we live in a fallen world because it means don't show up, don't try, doesn't matter, you don't have to do anything. We're all lost. And I don't take that to be my reality at all. I think that we are meant to be fully true partners, darkness, light, love, protection, whatever that looks like.
That's right.
And that if the world is falling, which we are just flying around on a space rock, nobody knows what the heck's happening. If the world is falling, let's hold her. Oh, that's beautiful. Hold her, help her, right? When somebody is falling, you don't say like, lost cause. No, you want that. Like,
So,
hold up.
okay, I'm going to circle this back around into a perfect circle right now where we started with my dear friend Sherry Neal, the Lutheran minister. Martin Luther said something that is absolutely what you're expressing right now, and I'm going to bastardize the quote, but you'll get the essence of it.
Okay,
He
here for it.
said, even in the demise and fall of our earth, plant an apple tree today.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely.
That's all it is, right?
Yeah.
That's all it is. This to me is what I feel like I embody now as, Space Frog the Levossan that's here to walk us home. Shoulders back, heart wide open, and just lean into all of it at all times. Yes, and every turd in the punch bowl, every sandwich that we eat. Yes, and thank you for this teaching.
Yes.
I will die of terminal cancer or whatever it is today. Thank you for this teaching. I'm present in this present moment because it's the only day I get. We don't have control, as we've established, with anything, and we don't understand what's going on. But what I do feel in my heart of hearts is that we are standing alive in divinity. Damn it, I want to be grateful in that.
Yes.
No matter how dark it is, I am not going to pull the trigger on somebody else.
Yeah. I think two things that also speaks to sacredness and community when you're talking about that we are truly all connected. And I remember I was working with a counselor at one point and telling her the idea of hurting somebody is physically painful to me. I can't. And I'd rather be shot than shoot somebody. And she was like, yeah, because you would be booted out of the community. And I was like, what? And she's like, it's literally survival. People surround the person who was injured and you boot the person who wasn't. And at first I felt so minimized and I was like, no, it's because I'm good or whatever. And it's not. It speaks to the sacredness that is community. We need each other. And when you fully understand that you need each other, I need you, you need me, I need you. And we need each other's voices, we need each other's skills, we need each other's desire to find the light, to protect. It speaks to that. And I think when you have what you're saying, like willingness to hold and protect somebody's heart, it shows that you truly understand that and you are in community with all souls, regardless of whether or not they're a turd in this particular world.
That's right. No, no, no. What do I know? Everything I carry. This is pop psychology in freshman year of college. We don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. Okay. We just project our own opinions and our own beliefs on everything. We can't help it as humans. I'm just a human being. So I know that that's my default neuro setting in everything I go into. So the discipline becomes taking a step back, taking a breath back, and listening to what's really being said and let it flow through me before I pull the trigger. Pause. Pause when agitated or doubtful. Okay? It's really simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love as you were talking about the pop psychology of yesteryears, that we have our pop psychology of today years. And
Sure.
the only thing we experience in life is our own nervous system. And I've been hearing that rolling around. Yeah.
Hey, okay, I have to do a shout out right now. There is a brand new book that came out about a month ago now,
Ooh.
published by Harvard Press. This woman is one of the top neuroscientists in the world at Harvard, and the name of the book is Energy Rising.
Energy rising.
And it's
Ooh.
all of
Rising,
the
rising.
it's all about what you just said. I'm getting chills right now because you just shared exactly what the new heart medicine for the planet to heal is. She wrote the template on this, and what she's using that I love is not just the credentials of Harvard University backing her in her brilliance as a woman, but hard MRI neural mapping data that the emotional body, the somatic, parasomatic connection from brain to heart, which is the longest journey that any of us ever make. That's the journey that every mystic takes us to, is where you can take the brain that is here to serve us as a tool and not to be a slave to, but to honor it and drop it into the heart so that the heart runs all of it.
The journey from the brain to the heart is the longest journey we'll ever take.
Yeah.
Mm.
That is the mystery. That's the divine mystery. That's where psychedelics come into play right now in the upleveling consciousness that's been going on for 5,000 years. By the way, the Greeks knew all this.
Yeah.
They were doing all this work back then, and that's why they were so illuminated. There's another book called The Immortality Key that I'm working through right now that has all of the hard data of all of that that's been erased for 5,000 years because they don't want Divine Mother to be in charge. Women ran ceremony for thousands of years before men took over, just so you know. Not a surprise to you two.
No, but I do love though that there is a collective voice that is emerging that is allowing the information that's hardwired into all of our bodies when we get here, the divine feminine, at least is how I feel it deeply in me, that is coming out. And before, I mean, there's a long history of people being burned for it, like the witch burnings. Witches, historically, they didn't burn witches, they burned women, is what I like to remind people, because what it was is not saying that you were hexing people. It was midwives. It was people who understand how to use um, plants as medicine. It was women who were left with land but no man. And so most people that were burned originally is because men wanted the land. And so it's been so stripped away through fear, through violence, but that inner knowing is and has always been in us. And I'm just so thankful that the world is sort of like taking a breath and welcoming that energy, but it really takes all of us to allow that story to be heard and to be heard.
Does.
And that's why I'm so thankful for you. You help facilitate that space.
Well, we all do right now. Again, the new Buddha is the Sangha. So the three of us right now energetically are actually creating a ripple that we don't even know how it will translate. And we don't need to know how it
Yeah.
translates in the mystery, that we're just in it presently right now, that we're safe, we're protected, we're standing in love. And that's all it is. Love heals. Healing, we can't rush healing.
Yeah.
We can't. But here's the secret to healing for me. We have survived 100%
Hmm.
of all our trauma.
Hmm.
Be here today.
Becca, you brought a beautiful realization yesterday as we walked to the park about surviving 100% of the trauma we have been through in faith. What if, though? So sometimes you just hear something and it unlocks a gentle idea in you. And for me, it spoke to, I think, that confidence, that inner knowing that's been unlocked in me is instead of navigating through the thoughts of what if, that's our brain space. We're talking about brain to heart, right?
So our brain is like, well, what if? Don't take that step. What if this happens? What if? What if? What if? And the heart doesn't say what if. The heart says, even though. The heart says, take a step. Even though that happens, I've got you. You know what to do. And so it's been a nice and gentle guiding light for me of what if versus even though. But before we go, beautiful space frog, is there anything else that you wish to share?
I love you.
I love you.
Namaste. Space
Namaste.
Namaste.